Hello, everyone, and I hope you're all doing well. My name is Tanner Dagenais, and I'm the host of Self-Sabotage Solutions. On this podcast, it's my opportunity and my pleasure to be able to share everything I know about self-sabotage. But also, I like to have other people on my podcast because we can get a unique perspective from other people. And I've had Nathan on my podcast before. It was a great pleasure to have him on before, and I'm very excited to have him here today. Today, we're going to be talking about the power of words. And we're going to be talking about different experiences we have had with the power of words. And, we're going to be getting Nathan's unique perspective on it. And then we'll talk about some possible solutions at the end. Nathan, can you please introduce yourself a little bit?
I'm Nathan Francis. For those that don't know me, I'm also a self-sabotage coach too. I'm from Australia, Victoria, about 2 hours north of Melbourne, in a little, or not really, like a regional town. I was the king of self-sabotage as we delved into in the last podcast. It's been a really awesome journey, and I've been truly grateful and humbled to meet some awesome people on this journey, and Tanner's one of those, and his podcast is awesome, and I'm really grateful to be a guest again today, which is good. So looking forward to delving into the power of words with him, because I feel like our words can manifest our reality, and I'm looking forward to delving into that more. So
Yeah, I totally
let's
agree
do
with
it.
that, that our words can manifest our reality, right? Because if you think about it, what are words, right? Words are just energy because everything is really made up of energy. And when we're speaking, we're literally creating new energy and bringing something to life.
Yep.
And
Where
it's amazing and has meaning behind it. Oh, sorry, you go for it.
No, you're right. I was just going to say that we're energy beings, and um, like everything's energy. Like food's energy, water's energy. Like everything is just energy. And the things we say, just listening to your last Power of Words podcast, like when you're saying working week, well, you're literally, what are you saying when you're saying that you've had a really hard working week? Like you're literally saying that you're working week.
Yep.
And that's the English language inversion, I guess, isn't it, Tanner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost formulated in a way that's I guess sneaky, I guess I would say. That
Very.
like people think they're saying one thing, but there's a whole nother meaning behind it. And that if you look at like the English language, there's so many like words inside words, or there is so many like alternate meanings for words that we could be saying one thing and like thinking it's meaning one thing, and we can be also being saying something else at the same exact time. And you know,
Mm.
that can be creating a whole new manifestation that we may not understand. And I kind of want to start with like, why is everything made up of energy? Because a lot of people might be like, everything's made up of energy. What are you talking about? Like, this is woo woo, right? But
Yeah.
they've actually proven it with science, right? They've proven it with quantum physics. So, someone I learned this from Bruce Lipton. Do you know who Bruce Lipton is?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I shared something with him the other day.
Bruce Lipton is an awesome scientist and just like an amazing mind. And
Yeah.
he was the one I learned about why everything is considered energy, right? Because we know from science that everything is made up of atoms. But really what makes up these atoms, right? There is three different quantum particles that make up atoms. I don't have the names of the particles, but you can just look them up online. They're pretty easy to find. So
Mm.
they're really funky names. But that's not really important, the names of them. What's important is that they're made up of little energy vortexes, what he found. They're like little
Mm.
mini energy tornadoes. So literally everything in the world is made up of this. So it's me and Nathan are both made up of it. The screen that you're looking at is made up of it. The seat that we're sitting on, that whiteboard behind me, everything, the sky, the words that are coming out of my mouth, that's
Mm.
energy coming out, and I think words are extra special too, because not only do they have energy, but they have meaning, and they can literally like change someone's day if we just say one word to them,
Yep.
like they can change your whole perspective on outlook if you hear certain words. I think they're so
Mm.
powerful.
They are powerful. And and it's like if you change what you say from negative to positive, like that energy's creating a positive energy for you. So
Mhm.
you're gonna see when you're saying something positive, like if I'm saying to you, Tanner, have a really awesome day, or that could mean so much to someone because they haven't heard that before or something, like our words are so powerful in a sense that if we say something negative to someone, well, how are they going to feel? And if we post something like I posted before, handle your face your future without fear, that sort of stuff, like that. Yeah, it's just so powerful. We could go so many different directions with it.
Exactly. Yeah. And a good example of like you saying something to me actually just before we started this podcast was you saying that you liked my podcast about the power of words, and that switched on something in my mind, like, oh man, that was a good podcast.
It was, yeah.
I was thinking, I thought it was a pretty good podcast, but when you hear other people tell you,
exactly,
it really switches on something, and you get a new perspective and new outlook, and that's really what we can change. And some of us know that, like, if someone else says something like mean to us, says something nice to us, it can change our perspective. But not many people think about, like, when we say things to ourselves, right? Because so many people are so critical, so harsh on ourselves. um and it, like, oftentimes we're our own worst critic, and we're just abusive towards ourselves, I would say.
Yeah, and it goes back to the way people view themselves standing in front of the mirror. Don't forget how powerful mirror work is. It's like, what are you saying to yourself, or what are you thinking about yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror? Are you running away from the mirror, or are you standing there going, I love who I am?
Yeah, I know a lot of women have a lot of hard time in front of the mirror. It's probably because there's such deep programming regarding, like, you got to be
Oh
better
yeah,
than this woman. You got to have makeup to be beautiful. You got to have all your hair done. You got to have eyelashes. You got to have,
Botox.
yeah, Botox. You got to have all these things, right? And
Oh yeah.
like, I know my wife struggles with it as well, and especially when she's in front of the mirror, like, she's hard on herself, and even though she knows this information and she works on overcoming it, but that's one of her biggest forms of self-sabotage, is that negative thoughts in front of the mirror. And I think a lot of people have that as well.
Yeah, they do.
So we'll talk about some solutions at the end. I have a
Yeah.
couple different techniques people can use.
Oh,
um,
sweet.
but yeah, what are your experiences have been with, like, negative thinking, or like the power of words, and like how you've changed things if you noticed yourself?
Oh yeah, I've definitely
Yeah.
noticed some stuff. I could go on so many different tangents. I'll just pick
Yeah.
one. So basically with me, I always loved who I was looking in the mirror. But there were things that I was doing that I spoke about in the last podcast that will wrap that up. But the way I would view myself, I always liked who I look like. I just didn't like the way I was doing things. So that was still negative. It's like, oh, I burnt that relationship, or that really nice girl came in. I didn't like doing that. And I look at myself in the mirror and I go, I can be better, but I didn't know how I could be better until I learned the power of the subconscious mind, which was through the Jason Christoph's work. So, in terms of words, though, I was a very negative person for such a long time. Like, things would always work out for me, but I would always have a negative thought about it. And that's one of my other big forms of self-sabotage, was those negative thoughts. They are so powerful, because if you can change that thought from negative to positive, your life does change in an instant, because mine did. I went away to Queensland with my brother for 6 months. We didn't really take this thing, and we had a car and some money, so we just left. We reconnected as brothers, but when we left and went to Queensland, we were under the impression that we weren't coming back home. So we manifested our own downfall, in a sense, that we came back home, because everywhere we went in Queensland, we said, we aren't going back to Victoria. Victoria is under a communist dictatorship. If anyone knows about Daniel Andrews, we did not have a really nice word to say about Victoria. And guess what? We came back, and here we are. It's like the lesson there was, you need to appreciate your home, appreciate where your roots are and where you've come from. We sort of just hightailed it out of here, and then just didn't have a really positive word to say about Victoria the entire time. We'd be sitting in a cafe. The waitress would come over. She'd be like, where are you from? Communist Victoria. You know, like we did not have a one good word to say about home. And then we've come home, and I appreciate home now. But I know that when I leave again, I'll appreciate home more, and I will have a nice word to say about Victoria. It's just interesting, isn't it? Like your thoughts, your words. Yeah. That was probably my biggest lesson over the last probably 3 or 4 months. Appreciate home.
Yeah. So when you were thinking negatively about your home, do you think it like made it harder to go back when you guys did have to go back?
It did, yeah. It really did. On that trip home, took us a day and a bit to actually drive home. Um, yeah, it was so hard because we did not have a good word to say. It's like, well, how are people going to react to us? Like, yeah, it was just, yeah. I was really flat. I was really down in the dumps on the way home. We had such an awesome time, and once we learnt that lesson, yeah, coming back home for the first couple of weeks was a bit different, but yeah,
Makes sense.
it was
Yeah, I know.
interesting.
I've had something kind of similar. It was actually with a job, and I meant to talk about this on your podcast when I came on and told my story, but I feel like
So
there's
you can
there's
tell
so
it now.
much to talk about,
Yeah, there is.
that kind of slipped my mind. So what I happened was I was working at Empower Retirement, which is a call center, and we helped the people with their 401ks or their retirement plans and things like that. It was the first job I ever worked at a call center, and I dreaded going on the phone. So I had
Yeah,
this huge pit in my stomach, and a big part of it was because I would tell myself I didn't want to do it. I would tell myself, that like, oh man, I would do anything to not have to work at this job. I would tell myself like I hated going on the phone, that it wasn't going to be good. Um, and I literally started getting like sick to my stomach. And that was literally me manifesting that. My subconscious mind was like, oh, you don't want to do this? You don't want to do this job? Well,
yeah,
here, you're not going to feel good.
yeah,
And I put up with that for 6 months. I started getting depression. I started getting all these things. And it was because I was so negative about it. And
mm,
after a certain point, I just hit my breaking point and quit. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell anyone in my family. I just wrote a letter that day, gave it or put it on my boss's desk who wasn't there, and I left. I went home, and
wow,
I've never done that with a job before, and I know it was because I literally sabotaged myself with those negative messages about how hard it was. Because I'm working at a job now, which is at Wells Fargo Retirement, or sorry, not Wells Fargo, just Wells Fargo, not retirement. And it's call center, pretty much similar jobs, right? And I just
yeah,
changed my mindset, and now I can go in
yeah,
there, I can take a call so easily. I don't have any pit in my stomach, I don't have depression, and I literally watched how hard it was at one point when I was so negative, and then I
mm,
changed my mindset, and now it's just like easy, and it is like wow, look, the power
mm.
of words are really strong. Like we
Dream
can
team.
literally, yeah, change our experience. We can change, like there's so many people who tell themselves, oh, this is a pain in the ass. Oh man,
Oh,
like
yeah,
that's killing me or stuff like that. And every time I hear that, I'm like, don't tell yourself that. You don't want that to be a pain in your ass. You don't want that to be killing you. You don't want to get a
yeah,
heart attack because you're going to work or something like that, right? Like,
yeah. It's interesting. I've heard stories where people have not wanted to go to work that day, or they have those thoughts and they say those things. Um, I heard a story where someone didn't want to go to work, and they said, "Oh, work gives me the shits." Well, guess what happened?
you got the shits.
They had the shits and they didn't go to work.
Wow. Yeah.
Like that's just how
Mm-hmm.
powerful words are.
Yep.
Funny story, but like if you say work is giving you the shits, then you may actually get the shits, literally.
Yep. Yeah, and it's really important that we start to look and analyze, like, since we are conscious individuals, that's one of the most
Mm,
amazing things about being conscious individuals. We can look at like what we just did or what we just said from a third place, or even before we say something, we can be like, wait a minute,
mm,
should I say this thing? Or look what I just said. How is that going to affect me in the future? Can I correct
yep.
that now? Because I think a lot of people just kind of say something and think that's it, or they have a
Mm,
thought pop into their head and they feel like they're victims to it, right? like
Mm,
depression, where they have like reoccurring negative thoughts over and over and over, and they're like, "This is just my life. I can't deal with it." They just keep coming back, right?
mm, yep. It's spot on.
Have you had those
Um,
negative thoughts recurring, coming back over and over?
yeah, in my first session with Jason, he talks about the gray area or that tin shed where you go back into that gray zone, which is something that you probably haven't dealt with yet. Sometimes I still get those negative thoughts, um, but I'm getting better at speaking to myself properly and saying, well, what's something I say to myself? I'm exactly where I'm meant to be in this present moment. Or something that Marissa Peer has drummed into my ears over the last month was I accept myself as a lovable person.
I love that. Mm-hmm.
Like she puts that like when you're under the theta state, she tells you to repeat things to yourself, and I accept myself as a lovable person has just resonated with me so much.
Yeah, that's
Because
so
if you can
important.
accept yourself as lovable, you can allow that in.
Completely agree with that. Yeah, so many people really don't love themselves, right? Like
No, they don't.
I know I didn't love myself for a long time, and I had to work on that. And I remember the first time I had my session with Jason, and he was like, "I want you to say I love you, Tanner, 3 times," and I was just like,
Yeah.
"What?" Like it felt really weird saying that
Mm,
to myself, but then also felt really good at the same time. And I've never
mm,
said that before to myself because I was like,
yeah.
"Why would I say that to myself?" But once
Yeah.
I started to understand, right, it made more sense.
Yeah, and he made an affirmation for me. It's the background of everything for me. It's I love you, Nathan. I believe in everything you do. Success is yours.
Mhm.
I
Yep.
read that to myself. I instantly change.
Mhm.
It's so powerful. Yeah, that just puts me back in that positive state.
Yep. Yeah, so the power of words are really, really important. Um, and there's definitely some good examples we talked about there. And another
Yep.
one I could talk about is just public speaking. I think a lot of people have like negative thoughts towards public speaking. I know I did.
Yeah.
Even back when I was like in what kindergarten or
I was
something, and we're
gonna
doing
say it goes
share and
back to
tell, show and tell.
yep. They're all childhood fears, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And I brought it forward into school, into middle school, into high school, into college. Whenever we had like a public speaking day, or we had to go do a report
Mm.
in front of the class, and I'd get up there, I'd get all sweaty, I'd get all shaky, I'd start
We've all been there.
stuttering. Yeah, tell myself I didn't want to do it. I hated public speaking, and
Mm.
I believed that for a long
Yeah,
time, and it held me back. And I remember the
it would
first
have.
time my wife told me I should do a podcast, and I was like, "What? You serious?" Like I don't know about that because I
Mm.
didn't I didn't believe in myself at the time, like that I was good at public speaking, right? That I could be good because I told myself I hated it for so long. I told myself that I wasn't good at it, that I believed it.
Mm. You should be so proud, mate. You've come such a long way because look at you now, like
Yep. And
awesome.
a big part of it was just changing my thinking. What I do before every
Literally.
time I go on a podcast, I tell myself, I'm a fantastic public speaker. I love public speaking. I am
Yeah.
confident. I speak slowly. I speak articulately. I love to share this information with other people. I literally just do that for like 5 to 10 minutes and just kind of go at it and
Yeah.
empower myself up. And I think that's so important that we can do this in any situation. Like you're going to go take a test, you're going to go for a job interview. You can tell yourself, I'm an amazing I'm amazing at job interviews. People love to listen to me. People love to talk to me. People want me to work for them. You
Mm.
can tell yourself these things, and then just go out there and be confident and do your best. And that's all you really got to do.
Exactly. It's about progression, not perfection,
Exactly.
isn't it?
Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
that's a big thing too. Because right, so many people want to start being more positive, and then they have a negative thought, and then they attack themselves for it.
Yep.
Why did I have this negative thought? You're stupid, Tanner. Blah 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 blah. Right?
Mm.
And I don't even like saying that to myself, so
Yeah, I
delete
was gonna
that.
say careful.
Yeah, I delete that out of my mind. And I'll talk to you guys about a method I'm using called the delete technique after
Yeah, I've heard
towards the
about this
end,
one.
and that
I
one's
love
really
this one.
good. So we'll
Yeah.
talk about that in a moment once we go to the tech solutions.
Yep.
But yeah, it's so important that we um address these negative thoughts, and then we be kind to ourselves if we do have a negative thought, because a big reason why we have these reoccurring negative thoughts is because the subconscious mind is like a record player. And you want to talk a little bit about that? I'll let you talk.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when you go back, if you've done some work on yourself and you go back to a habit that you feel like you've I can't even talk. Maybe I should say that to myself too, but before a podcast, so I can speak
Yeah,
clearly.
it
Yeah,
helps.
when you go back, you've done some work on yourself, and you go back to a habit that you've broken. A lot of people beat up on themselves, and then they just continue to do that habit. They haven't. It's like breaking that cycle.
Mhm.
Um, what's an example? People will watch stuff online that's like porn and stuff, right?
Mhm.
Well, if they break that cycle, well, why are they going back? What are they still scared of?
Yep. It
I
could be
feel
something
that
there's. Oh, sorry, you go for it. What were you gonna say?
it's and then they beat up on themselves, and then they take up some more stuff to help them feel safe. Our subconscious just wants to seek safety. So if it's gonna if it was it's that's what Jason talks about, that gray area or that tin shed. It's that when you go back in there, or if you go back in there, you have the tools to be able to get yourself out again by rereading your "I love you, Nathan" or "I love you, Tanner," or something that resonates and that shifts that negative thought back out of your body, and you get back into the positive. That's how powerful our words are. But I haven't drank for 14 or 15 months, but I've gone back into that tin shed, not with alcohol, but with other stuff. And I've had to just look at my affirmation wall and go, well, this is why I'm here. I don't need that in my life anymore. It's done. Saying it's done is very, very powerful.
Yep.
I don't
And
need to download Tinder and Bumble. I don't need to watch porn. That is done.
Mhm.
Done.
I
Because
love it.
when I used to watch that sort of stuff, I was scared.
Mhm.
I was just a scared little boy. I just needed to give that boy some love. That's all it needed.
Yep.
But it's done. See how powerful that is? It's
Mhm.
done. Finished.
Yep, agreed. And I think a lot of people say like, I can't do this anymore. I'm trying not to do this, right? What are
Yep.
you implying when you're saying I'm trying not to do this or I can't? Really,
Yeah,
when you're
what you're
saying
saying.
I'm trying not to, is that you're implying that you might fail, right?
Yep. Yep.
And you're giving yourself an out if you do. And I like to change my thinking to say, if you're saying I'm trying to not drink, I'm trying not to smoke, I'm trying not to do these things, say I'm
Mm,
choosing not to, because it's a
exactly.
choice,
Yep.
you know.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And then you spoke about it in your podcast too. If people have an affirmation, well, I am wealthy, and they're not wealthy, it's like I am building my wealth,
Yep.
or I am working towards my wealth as
Mhm.
well. I've found that interesting when you said that,
Exactly, because some people
because
feel
you
like
technically are lying to yourself, aren't you, if they're not wealthy?
some people. The thing is, the way I like to think about it, because some people do feel like they're lying about themselves, right?
Mm.
But goes get kind of back to the quantum physics thing, where they kind of think that all times happening at the same time. So the future's happening now, the past is happening now, and now is happening now. It's kind of confusing when you think about it, and you have to kind of look more into it. I recommend you kind of look more. And I think there's something to call like the Schrodinger's cat experiment, where they put like a cat underneath a box, and it could be there or it couldn't be there, but all things could be happening at the same time.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing, but you know, technically why you say I am wealthy now, because you are creating that manifestation now, and it could be a reality now,
Mm.
for all you know. But yeah, exactly. If you are feeling like you're lying, and you keep getting a thought that's fighting you every time you say that, well, then you can try to say it in a different way.
Mm.
I am building my wealth.
Mm.
I am working towards wealth every day, or wealth
Mm.
is coming to me every single day, right?
Mm.
You
Spot
can you
on.
can change it. Yep. But I think I want to talk real quick about why these things keep coming back. Because yes, it is partially that we're scared, but part of it is that you know the way the subconscious mind, it does seek the safety, right? But why does it deem something safe? It deems something safe because of how many times we've seen it, how many times it's been repeated over and over and
Repetition.
over and over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, and Jason likes to use this piece of paper, so I'll use a piece of paper too, right? So every time we see something, it gets marked down on this piece of paper, and you can think of this piece of paper as like a giant hard drive that your subconscious mind holds, because that's really what your subconscious mind is. It's a supercomputer. Our conscious mind processes information at 40 pieces of information per second, while our subconscious mind is 11 million pieces of information per second. And your subconscious mind is scanning constantly, vigorously scanning the environment, trying to determine what's the safest option for you to take today. What's the safest option for you, things for you to say, for you to wear, for you to eat, for you to drink, for you to look at on the website or on the internet. And
Mm.
it determines that. So if you had an urge to go jerk off, maybe it's because you got you got something in your environment that's showing more things that are sexual, more. And there's a lot of TV shows, there's a lot of things on social media, or it could be a thought that recurred it. So what I like to think about it as is that nature will always go down the path of least resistance, right? So the path of least resistance would be the one that's the safest path to the subconscious mind. And so
Mm.
the nice thing is that we can always change what the path of least resistance is by changing what's familiar in our lives. And that's really what repetition does. That's what the hypnosis does. So when we are reprogramming ourselves, we are changing what is familiar or what is the path of least resistance in our subconscious mind. So negative thoughts may be your path of least resistance right now, and that's why you keep having those negative thoughts, or that's why you keep going back to the porn. And if you're able to start creating a new path of least resistance, then you might be able to go down that path instead of this one, and then you
Mm.
start naturally going towards positive thinking instead of the negative thinking. What do you think
Love
about
that.
that? Yeah.
That's powerful. That's yeah. There you go. I haven't really got a reply to that.
Yeah, I've talked about
That's
that one a
awesome.
decent amount of times, and I think
That's
it
awesome,
is,
man.
and I think a big part of it is too fear, right? Like
Yeah, it is.
we had that fear and that we're not good enough, that we won't be able to find someone to fulfill our needs, so we go to the porn instead.
Yeah.
But part of
But
it
it's
is that
also
just,
that repetition.
yeah, that repetition, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
like, and it's so easy in today's day and age, and that's why it's so important you limit what negative things, because you can't limit all negative things out of
Nah.
your environment. It's just impossible, because when we're driving, like there's things on the billboards like to get
Yep.
vaccinated, there's things that everywhere, but you want to make sure that even though you're seeing those things, your most dominant program, your most dominant path of least resistance is something towards the life you want, and not towards something negative, because otherwise you'll find yourself going down that path.
Interesting. Yes. Well said, Tanner. That is so awesome, man. I haven't got anything to say because it's so good.
Oh, perfect. Well, do you want to start moving into some solutions now, or do you have anything else to talk about with the power of words here?
um, just just um just look at yourself in the mirror, and the way you feel and look at yourself determines whether it's negative or positive. You'll just know. If you stand there and you feel as though you look really good in the mirror, then you'll feel really good walking out into life. But if you look at yourself and you go, "Oh, I got a bit of got a bit of fat here," or "I look really oh, I don't look ugly," oh, you could say those things, but like, just change that thought. We all are beautiful,
Mhm. Yep.
and we are all love.
Agreed.
So let's turn back into love now.
Exactly. And just because you are accepting yourself now and loving yourself now does not mean you can't pursue something better. You can't go out and
Mm,
exercise and lose that weight. You can't
mm.
go, exercise and get more muscular, right? It's actually usually easier to do so once you accept yourself and you love yourself, because then you're not holding yourself down with all that negative energy. You're not
Yeah.
constantly dwelling upon that, right?
Mm. And those emotions, well, you're dealing with them, so you're shifting them. Once you shift those emotions that are attached, look out.
And a lot of these things could be happening just because you have those negative thoughts about yourself. You
Mm.
know, I want to talk about a couple stories from Marissa Peer that I've heard. So there
Here we
was
go.
one with Marissa Peer where she was working with this girl who every time she got sad, she would go and just pig out on a whole gallon of ice cream, right? And she was
Mm.
trying to understand why, because it was causing a cycle where she would get really sad, eat ice cream, and then she gets sad about eating the ice cream, and she'd go and pig out more. Um, and what she found out was is that her dad, when she was young, used to always take her to get ice cream when she was sad. Her dad wasn't around anymore, but every time she got sad, she still had that program built in her to go get ice cream. That's the
Wow.
power of some of these programs.
Mm.
Another one is a little boy um, who had a mother, and the mother just had a child. And this little boy would always watch the mother put lotion on himself or put lotion on the baby. And he'd always say, "Mom, I want some lotion too." And she'd be like, "You're silly. This is for the baby.
Mm.
The baby gets
Mm.
lotion. You don't need lotion." And this little boy wanted lotion so bad. He would tell himself he wanted that lotion. He wanted it so bad. And you know what he developed? Eczema. And then his
Wow.
mom had to put lotion on.
Mm.
And they went in to work with Marissa Peer. You know what she asked the little boy? If that eczema had a superpower, what would it be? And he said, "Well, when I always wanted the lotion from mom, and I never got it, but now I get lotion on me every day."
Wow. He manifested his own eczema.
Yeah. And we can do that with a lot of different things. Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah. If people see, if you have a family member that's, getting all the attention that's got this disease, well, then if you want that attention, well, you're going to manifest that as a child, aren't you?
Yep.
It
It's
makes a lot of
crazy.
sense.
Exactly. And I think the big part of it is that, our subconscious mind is hearing these things, and our subconscious mind is
Mm.
in control of all bodily functions.
Yep.
You know? So it can increase our metabolism so that we gain weight. It can make it so we have phantom pregnancy symptoms. If
Yeah.
you heard the phantom pregnancy stuff,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like women will be feeling like they have phantom pregnancy, even a pregnancy
Yeah.
symptoms, even if they're not pregnant, because they want to be
Yep.
pregnant so bad. Um, people get phantom feel like they have phantom limbs, and that could just be from old programs of their subconscious mind. Is like we had a hand here, right?
Yep.
So I think it's
And
the power of words is really powerful, and I wanted to share a couple of those stories because I thought they were really awesome stories. That when I
yeah,
heard
they're
them, I was
awesome.
just like, wow.
Mm.
So you're
Even that one with the lady that had the shits.
yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's all the same thing, right? Me at
Yeah.
Empower Retirement, the lady with the shits, the guy, the little kid with the lotion, the
Yeah.
woman with ice cream, right? It's all the same story that
It
we tell
is.
ourselves something, and something happens because of it, and a lot of people don't realize that we actually caused it or we manifested it. We are all able to create with our words and with the thoughts in our head. So we can all create energy. We all and going back to what we were talking about before this podcast,
Mm.
the spiritual side. This is
Mm.
what I kind of like think about the spiritual side is that we all have part of like the divine in us. We all have that energy flowing through us because we were all created by the same source, whatever it may be. I don't know.
Mm.
But that energy within us makes it so we can create. We can create with our hands, we can create with our mind, we can create with our words, we can create things. And that's why affirmations work. We can literally manifest things in the world. And just because you're saying I'm wealthy every day, does that never mean you're going to manifest that wealth if you're telling yourself a lot of other things or a lot of other negative beliefs around money, right? You tell yourself it's too
Mm.
expensive all the time. You tell yourself you can't afford these things. Well, then you're kind of counteracting that I'm wealthy with and I'm poor or I can't afford
Mm.
these things, right? So
Mm.
people don't realize they're doing that. And they're like, oh, I'm done. The manifestation thing doesn't work for me. And they
Mm-hmm.
don't realize that they were counteracting that manifestation.
You're right. Spot on. And I was sitting in a bit of that too. Like, I had all these awesome things I knew that was coming. Like, yeah, and you sit in that negative thought, and then nothing happens because you're stuck again.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't realize that they've actually manifested their own stuckness because they haven't, like, they could, yeah, what you just said before, like that you can actually manifest your own stuckness too, to a point where nothing happens
Yep.
because you it's what they're saying to themselves, or it's the subconscious mind. It's probably all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they can get out of that stuckness with just a simple affirmation saying that I am building my dreams. Well, if they know what their dreams are, everyone knows what their dreams are. It's having those goals and those vision boards and what we see, hear, and think. You're right. You're spot on.
And
And feel.
actually, a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people do know what their dreams are. Like they're like, yeah, I want to have money. I want to be able to do this thing, right? But
Yep.
they don't know like specifically what they actually want. And I think that's so
Mm,
important. Now that you talked about it, like to be clear on what you want, because
mm,
if you don't know where you're going, how do you expect to be able to get there?
exactly. And that's why people are stuck.
Exactly. From Alice in Wonderland, the Cheshire Cat, he asked
Mm,
Alice, do you know where you're going? And she said, no. He's like, well, any road will get you there then.
exactly.
Any road. You can take the road down this way, down that way, down this way, but who knows where that's going to end up. But if you're clear about where you want, if you planned, and obviously sometimes you have to make amendments to your plans or your goals or your dreams. But if you're clear about what you want, it's easier to be able to formulate a plan or take actions towards that goal or life.
Spot on. Yep. And that's like the goal setting and the vision boards and having like a timeline of when you want to achieve something, because then your subconscious mind goes, yep, that's
Exactly. Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. Actually, I got a vision board right here um, on my background. So every time I look in the background of my computer screen, I see stuff about the subconscious mind. I see wealth. I see money. I
Mm,
see coaching. I see family. I see love. I see plants
mm,
growing because I want to have my own organic garden. I see the beach because I like to go out to the beach. I see these things. I see someone with muscles because I'm trying to build some muscles. I see healthy food, trying to program myself that way. I
mm.
know this is talking about we're talking about the power of words, but um, that is still a solution you can use because some of these vision boards can have words on them that you could be programming yourself with, right? Even just a simple sticky note of saying, I am confident. Like at my work at Empower or at Wells Fargo, I have a bunch of sticky notes underneath my computer. One
Mm.
says, I am confident. One says, I am enough. One says, I love myself. I have and that's just a sticky note. You can write that in seconds, and you
Yeah.
see it every single day. You're programming yourself. You can put it on the background of your phone screen. You can change your passwords to positive affirmations.
Or just write on a whiteboard right behind you there.
Yep, exactly. I see that one every day. I am enough, and I
Yeah.
like to see all my listeners to get that positive programming, and everyone who's on my podcast coming to talk like you. I'm enough. Remember it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such an important message.
That's one that Marissa Peer is really big on too, right? Because have you heard that story where she talks about writing it on your mirrors? She's writing on
Yes.
everything. Yep.
Mm,
We also have "I am enough" written on our mirrors at home here, so like in just like a um, dry erase marker, put it on your mirror, and
mm.
that way time you look in the mirror, you see yourself and you see "I am enough."
Mm.
Great
I love
programming.
that. I love that.
So I
I
guess
love that. I'm going
that's
to do
some of
that
the
too.
solutions. Oh, yeah, you should do that. Yeah,
I'm
it's
going to.
it's great.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess we can talk about some solutions now. Um,
Yeah. Let's go for it.
So I'll start with one of them, the
All right.
delete technique, or unless you want to go first.
No, you can.
Okay.
That delete technique, I heard you speak about it only the other week, so I'm interested. Let's
Yeah.
go.
So the delete technique, I think I learned it from a book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. Um,
Okay.
and this book has a bunch of different techniques that I really liked, but the delete technique really stuck out to me because the reason why it works, let's talk about the reason why it works. First, it captures visualization and it captures emotion if you use that emotion. And it captures using positive words, and it's kind of a fun way to do it. So let's just talk about what the delete technique is first. Let's say
Yep.
someone says something negative to you, and we can delete this in just a second. I'm not good enough, or you're looking bad today, or something, right? You picture that in your mind, like imagine like a computer screen, right? And you have a Word document, and that phrase is just there, and you see the little flashing like line afterwards saying it's ready for your command. What are you going to do next? You're going to type more, you're going to delete it. Then
Mm.
you see a big keyboard, and that delete key is just shining. It's big, it's it's glowing red. It's like, press me, press this delete key. And you just feel with all that emotion, just let it go, delete it out of your mind. Watch those words just go right off the screen. Feel that release, feel the energy go away.
Yeah.
And then you can go and type something new. That line's still waiting for you. What are you going to replace that negative word with? I'm good enough. I love myself.
Wow.
Oh,
I literally just did that while you were talking about it, so it does work.
yeah. And well,
I had
actually,
something come into my head when you were talking,
oh yeah,
and when we rewatched this, I was saying stuff to myself because I was doing that technique right there and then.
that's awesome. I
So it
love
does
that.
work, people. It does work.
It
I
does
just did
work.
it.
And actually, I guess the book didn't really have the last part. So
Yeah.
I call it the delete and create technique now.
Love
Uh,
that.
because I added that last whole part. Because I'm like, why just stop at deleting it? Why not just replace it afterwards by typing
Mm.
something new onto that computer screen and then pressing enter and watching that stay there with no line afterwards? And that's new program in your mind.
It's awesome. And a solution that I use, well, obviously, affirmations, vision boards, but another one I like to use is I like to sit in a room or my space, and I just stretch. If there's something negative there, well, I'll feel it in that stretch, and that's where that negative release needs to happen. So, like, I could have like a tight hamstring muscle, right? And I'll ask my body, well, why is this hamstring tight? What's the negativity what's the negative thought that I have or the negative part of my life that's making my hamstring tight? Body could say, the way you spoke to a child today, you might have been a little bit snappy or a bit rude. And then I'll sit there and I'll go, well, I can release and forgive myself for that now. And next time I speak to that child, I'll say, instead of yelling, Nathan, I want to play ball with you, just be like, hey, mate, just come over here and say, hey, just ask me nicely, instead of me snapping back, going, come here and say that again, or something like that. That's what I do. I ask myself what's come up over the day. And if I've said something negative towards myself or others, then I'll go, okay, well, it's come out in my shoulder or it's come out and I'll release that and I'll visualize this big light coming through my body and that pain or that tightness is gone now. I've released that and I'm not as uptight anymore.
I love
That's a
that.
pretty deep one, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that one's great. And actually, I'll have to try that out because I got this weird pain in my lower back that just kind of appeared the other day, and I've been trying
Yeah,
to figure out what it is.
Jason says pain is the teacher.
Yeah, pain is the teacher.
Sometimes it's just a negative thought. Sometimes it's just like back pain, Tanner. It might be that you're carrying some weight around. Like it might be some pressure of the house or pressure at work or something. It's just something that you might have to just release.
Yep, I
Send it
totally
back to the
agree.
universe. Send it back to the sun with love, brother.
Yep, I love that, and I love how you were pictured the light coming in.
Yeah.
Because there was a Tai Chi technique I learned from Paul Chek,
Ooh, hello.
um, where he talked about kind of put your hands out here like this, kind of like you're holding breasts. That's the way he talked about it. You're holding breasts, right? And you inhale and bring light into you, and then you exhale and let it out, and you're shooting out the darkness out of you back into Mother Earth.
Yes.
And you let Mother Earth deal with it because Mother Earth can deal with it. And you bring it in, bring that light in you, and let the
That's pretty
darkness
cool.
go. Yeah, it's I like that one. I've done that a couple times. I sometimes do that before like a podcast if I'm feeling like nervous or I got any like tension built up, and I just kind of it feels a lot better afterwards. Another
Mm.
cool technique you guys can use to just kind of let go of some negativity.
Yeah, my brother uses one. He was talking about it the other day. He's like, I breathe in the new and I breathe out the old. So it's the
Yeah,
same sort of stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
he does
exactly.
that.
The same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yep. Yeah, there's different. A lot of these techniques have like different variations, and that's the cool thing is
yeah,
that you can always create your own technique.
yep.
for instance, my wife loves Harry Potter. And so I
Oh.
thought of technique based on Harry Potter. So, these negative thoughts that keep reoccurring, they're kind of like a Dementor. Have you watched Harry Potter?
Yeah, I've read the books. Yeah.
So, Dementors, they're like the cloaked figures that like suck your
Yeah.
soul out.
Yeah.
They're kind of relatable to like a negative thought that keeps reoccurring, right? They keep coming back to steal your energy, to steal your positivity. And so you can use the Patronus technique to imagine your spirit animal or a very positive memory of yourself, and imagine your head that going forward and charging that negative thought and blasting it away and blasting it out um,
That's awesome.
of your brain.
I
I
love that
mean,
one.
there's a lot of these just have techniques, right? So like you can literally create any kind of um, technique to overcome these negative thoughts. You just got to use visualization, and you got to know the rules of the subconscious mind. And the rules of the subconscious mind, there's a varying couple different ones, but do you want to talk about some of those, or do you know some of the rules of the subconscious mind?
Some variables. You can start us off,
Okay.
and then I'll just
Okay.
I'll just go with it. Yeah.
So some of the rules of the subconscious mind, you want to avoid negatives because the
Yep.
subconscious mind doesn't really avoid no negatives. So you can tell yourself not to picture a pink giraffe, or sorry, a pink elephant holding a yellow ball bouncing on a lime green rug, but that thought just came into your head and you saw that pink elephant or the pink
I did.
elephant.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So even if you tell yourself you're not going to do it, your subconscious mind does understand that and it does picture it,
Yeah.
right? So when you tell
Same as
yourself,
negative and positive. Yep.
exactly, so when you tell yourself you're not fat, all it
Yep.
hears is I'm fat and it pictures a fat belly, right?
Literally. Yep.
Exactly. So like a lot of people will tell themselves those negatives as an affirmation, and you got to really avoid that.
Mm,
That's why you want to say, I am healthy, I am blah blah blah, because whatever falls I am will follow you in life.
correct. Spot
Mm-hmm.
on. And we've learnt that through our work. It's like the subconscious doesn't really know the difference between that with the words. You know, you could hear or feel or see something or have or say that to yourself, but yeah, you're right. The subconscious mind doesn't determine whether that's positive or negative.
Exactly. It's,
Yeah,
it's it's not really, it's not a logical part of our mind. It's a
correct.
very powerful part of our mind, but it is more like a record player
Yep.
than like
Yep.
unlike our conscious mind where we can decipher, oh, this was a good message, this was a bad message. Our subconscious mind is like, oh yeah, come on
Yep.
in, and we'll determine what's the safest thing for you to do today.
Yep. Exactly right. And if that's being negative or being fat or whatever, it's just how. Yeah, that will literally happen.
Yep,
That's so true.
exactly. Yep. So yep, and then it doesn't. Um, yeah, and then it's repetition is important, right? Because
Yeah.
repeating, like if you're in an affirmation, I usually repeat it around 3 times just to
Yeah,
kind of
same.
lock it into your mind.
When you wake up in the morning and before you go to sleep,
Oh, yeah.
um, I say to myself before I go to sleep and when I wake up in the morning is I am love, I am light. I let love in and I let love out.
Love it.
Or Marissa Peer, I accept myself as a lovable person.
Mm-hmm.
That one works pretty well.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And then, I used to not have as good a sleep as I used to have, or I used to not have as good a sleep as I do now. And something I would tell myself is I'm going to have an amazing sleep tonight. I'm going to sleep
Same
throughout the
here.
night. Yeah.
Yeah. I say, I'm going to have the most healing sleep. I'm going to have the most relaxing sleep. I'm going to wake up feeling refreshed, revitalized, and ready to face the day.
Awesome.
Night, night, Nathan.
Yep. Exactly. And some people might be thinking, oh, this is just kind of weird. Like, why would you be doing that to yourself? But the power of words, like we've talked about, it's so important. Like
Yeah,
literally what you
and
talk about yourself, you're creating in your life.
literally, if you are gonna start doing that, don't just do it for one night and think that's just gonna have the best sleep ever. As we just spoke about, positive repetition. Keep doing it. It eventually will work.
Exactly.
Because I went through that too. There's another part of something I should have said earlier. I went through all of that as well. I was having shocking night sleeps when I was doing all this work on myself and that. But then as soon as I started getting a bedtime routine and started saying stuff to myself before sleep, it eventually worked. Had a few teething issues, but it eventually worked.
Yeah,
A lot of people out there are looking for that quick fix. Um, yeah, it's it's a slow process sometimes. Just be kind to yourself.
exactly. Yeah, the repetition can be slower. To get more immediate change, use the hypnosis, use the theta state,
Yeah.
which is
I'll listen to
theta.
Marissa P before I go to sleep too.
Exactly, that's important. That can be very helpful.
Oh yeah,
Or
and it's actually helps me relax.
yeah, I usually fall asleep right away with that.
Same.
But you don't. If someone is out there, you don't even have to use a different hypnosis track or something. You can create your own affirmations, record them
Yep.
before you go to bed, or so record them, and then you can listen when you go to bed, when you're waking up. And the reason why
Mm.
you listen to them before you go to bed when you're waking up, you want to share why? Or
Pardon? Yeah.
because
Oh yeah. So
yeah,
it's so important what you say and stuff. Yeah. It's I'll just sort of throw me off there. I was going to
oh, you're
mention
good.
something else about one of your podcasts, but I'll get back
Okay.
into this mode first. Yeah, no, what you say to yourself before you go to sleep, yes, so true. I find that if I don't, if something of my little bedtime routines off, if I don't have them, if I don't listen to anything, or I take ages to get to sleep because I haven't released those. Like when you listen to Marissa Peer, she's releasing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't listen to Marissa Peer before I go to sleep, my sleep is not going to be as great.
Yeah, and the reason why it's so important to listen to those before you go to bed or when you're waking up is because it's actually when you're going to sleep, you're going to that deep sleep,
That theta state.
your brain's passing through different wave states, right?
Yes, and when it's in that theta state, that is when it's primed for reprogramming.
Exactly. And this the theta state, our mind goes into it multiple times throughout the day as well,
Yep,
but it's also very hyperactive when we're kids between the ages of 2 and 7. That's why
correct.
kids can learn so quickly. That's why kids are so moldable, and that's why it's so important that we be careful what we do around kids because
Their
they'll
subconscious
mimic
mind
it.
is super strong when they're in the
Exactly.
ages 0 to 7.
Yep.
You pick up, that's where they pick up all their programs.
That's how they learn
That's
everything,
probably
right?
another podcast we can do as well, isn't
Oh
it?
yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
definitely a podcast we can talk about.
Yeah.
What we're going to say about one of my podcasts?
Oh yeah, one of your podcasts, you had a solution to the power of words, and it was like a little jingle you say to yourself, wasn't it? I am loving, yes I am. Wasn't that
Yeah,
one of your jingles?
yeah. So actually,
I think I remember that.
my wife started making one of those, and you can do it with any kind of jingle, any kind of song, any. So
I
it's
love
just
that
like,
jingle, man.
and I change it to different things. I can say, I am wealthy, I am
That's it.
wealthy, yes I am, yes I am. I'm
I loved
absolutely
it.
wealthy. I'm absolutely wealthy. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And
I love that.
I used to listen to songs all the time in the car.
Mm.
Now I just sing myself random songs with different affirmations.
I do that too.
And
As soon as
that's
I
a great
listen to
way.
you do it, as soon as I listen to you do it, it's you know how we say that we're pack animals and we mirror, mimic, and copy. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
mirror, mimic, and copy some of the stuff Tanner does.
Yeah.
I start singing to myself in the car too. Those sort of stuff.
Yeah, that happens so easily, right? Because like you ever had a friend who just like says like a phrase all the time, and then all of a sudden you find
And then
yourself
you
saying
start
it,
saying it.
and you're
Yes.
like, what? I didn't like I don't even want to say this, but it's come to
Yeah.
my mind over and over. It's because we heard that
Yep.
repetition. We built a new path of least resistance in your subconscious mind. It's like, hey, this is a safe thing to do. We
Oh
heard that
man.
our friends say it like 8 times or ten
Yeah.
times, and we thought it
I
was
was
funny.
someone that always did that, mate. Like if someone started saying something new, I would just start saying it. Like I was that sort of person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or like you
Interesting.
and me have talked about like the on I think we were talking about when we were talking about like, the Joker podcast I had. We're talking about being a Joker. We both talked about how you and me both like quote a lot of movies, right? Have
I
quoted
used to,
lots of movies
yeah.
in our past, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. Like we know that was our subconscious, like, hey, other people have watched this movie. People laugh
Yes.
at this movie. That's something
Yes.
funny we can say and get people's
And
laugh.
we'll
And
get the laugh. Yeah.
exactly. And I
Far
would
out,
I would
man.
always get laughs from the things I'd say from different
Same
movies.
here. Adam Sandler movies.
Yep. Yep,
Mate.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's another podcast in itself, that one.
Yep. But yeah, and we kind of got off on a tangent, but these are all relevant to the power of words, right? Because
They are,
all
yeah.
these things can affect you, and even just like the smallest thing is watching a movie, you know, hearing, and that's another rule of the subconscious mind. It doesn't matter if it's fiction or reality,
Yep.
it still affects your subconscious mind because it can't remember like we were talking about how it doesn't It's not a logical part of your mind. Can't tell the difference between good and bad. It can't tell the difference between fiction and reality. So if it hears
Mm.
something on the television, or you fall asleep with the television on, you don't know what you're programming yourself with. And a lot of times we don't
Nah.
catch the things that are being said in movies or TV shows because we can only pull in so much piece of information per second. But there's a lot of things
Mm.
in TV shows that we're missing. You know, the 40 pieces of
Mm.
information per second our conscious mind does compared to 11 million pieces of information our
Mm.
subconscious mind does. You know, it's not comparable.
That's spot on. I'm just going to delve into that.
Yeah.
Before you go to sleep, it's very important what you listen to. Even while you're having dinner and stuff too, like those hours leading up to bed, because your body's preparing yourself for sleep, so it's putting you into that state from, I don't know, from like 6 till whenever you go to sleep. Your body's winding down, so it's very important in that crucial period before you go to sleep. And it's also the same thing again in that period when you wake up too. Yeah, what you're putting in your ears, what you're seeing, because if you're falling asleep watching Friends, well, then you're going to start getting rich and you'll end up like Joey, like Jason talks about, and you'll end up back with your friends because you'll be scared to be wealthy because the wealthy person gets attacked out there. Yeah, you're right. It's spot on. What you put into what you see, what you hear before you go to sleep is so important. If you're hearing before you go to sleep, I am loving, I accept myself as lovable, I give love to others, my health is my wealth. All if you're hearing all of that, well, then you're going to start being that eventually.
Exactly.
21
Yep.
days, Mr. Pierce says.
Exactly. Yep. Like we all know how beneficial someone else saying something positive to us is, but the amazing thing
Oh,
is that
yeah.
we can do that for ourselves every single day
Yes, we
at any
can.
moment, and we can do it much more often than someone else could.
Yep. I am love. I am light. There you go. Bang.
Awesome. Yeah, so I guess one of my other techniques was that singing one, but we
I
talked
love that
about
one.
that already. So yeah, that
No,
one's great.
I was always going to bring that up.
And it doesn't matter if you're an amazing singer or not, right?
Nah.
And tell yourself you're good at singing and you'll start getting better. Like I've
Yep.
definitely gotten better at singing since I've started doing that. I just find myself singing random songs now. Like I just
You
make them up.
singing, you singing nursery rhymes to your little one, are you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. How are you programming your little one? Are you singing to it to him?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, him. Are you singing my parents love you, your parents love you, yes they do, yes they do, what sort of stuff? Are you singing that sort of stuff to him?
Yeah, yeah, different variations of things like that.
Yeah.
You know, say my affirmations in front of him.
Love
I
that.
whenever I work out, I make sure he's there watching me, and he gets really interested when we
Yes.
work out. Um,
That's so
Try
cool.
avoiding the TV. I've had the TV
Yep.
on like once or twice when he's around, and he
Oh,
will be
their eyes just
glued on it.
glued. Yes.
Exactly. And he like
Mate.
you try to distract
Oh.
him. No.
Yep. Nah.
I try to pick him up. So I try moving around me to see it. Like and the
You can
reason
see how
why
powerful this thing is, can't you?
exactly the TV is one of the biggest ways to program our subconscious mind.
Military weapon. Military
Yeah,
weapon.
it is actually there's a patent. I have to look at I had a picture with a talking about a Google patent of the TV being used as a brainwash device, and it's so true
Mm.
because you know when we go into hypnosis, really all that is just being relaxed
Yep.
and having our conscious mind distracted. And when we're doing that, what we're doing on the TV, right? We're being distracted by something and we're being in a relaxed state. Oftentimes we're looking up. Oftentimes there's light, flashes of bright light. There's usually the colors red and blue.
Mm-hmm.
And what will happen is that you start to be programming yourself. That's why they call it TV programming.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I've I'm in schools at the moment, and as soon as you put that screen on, mate, the kids could be like, they could have their backs to the TV. They could be literally immersed in some coloring in. As soon as that light comes on, they're straight up in there.
Wow. Yeah.
You could have 25 kids in a room. You could have 50 sets of eyes in an instant straight on that TV.
Wow.
I
That's
have not
powerful.
seen anything like it in my entire life, man. It's crazy.
A lot of people just don't notice that stuff.
No.
Yep. And now you see like toddlers with like sorry, that's my dog. Now you see toddlers with like tablets and like their own phones and things like that. And we don't plan on letting our kid have a phone or a tablet for a long time.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, pretty much our positive reprogramming for him is just being the best selves that we can be, because we know
Yes.
that beyond the power of words, like you can tell your kid to do something all day long, but you
Yep.
got to be taking actions yourself also that they will be able to mimic. Because otherwise they're
Yep.
gonna, you can say don't do this, and actually that's another reason why people like they'll tell their kids not to do something. We know the subconscious mind doesn't understand that. They're really telling their kids to do something,
If
right?
you want your kids to be better,
You got
it
to be
starts
better.
with you. Give
Exactly.
themselves something better to mirror, mimic, and copy.
Yep. Yep. And if
Mm.
you if you know if you realize that, if you're thinking about it now, you realize that you've been programming your kid in the wrong way, don't beat yourself up like we were talking about earlier, right? Just start to
Mm.
do better now.
Yep.
Now you know the power of words, now that you know these different things, you can start to reprogram your kid towards a better life. You can start to cut out those negative influences. So cut
Yep.
out the TV shows. And a lot of those kids' TV shows are just terrible.
Oh,
Um,
mate.
oh,
Yeah.
the Disney stuff and like
Yeah.
all that. Really be careful what cartoons and negative messages are in those things.
Mm.
And then be careful also like the songs you're listening to. So many of the
Yep.
songs have negative, and that's another thing we didn't really talk about yet. But the songs just have so many negative messages. Like I used to
Yep.
listen to music all the time, and I used
Same.
to listen to a very wide variety of them. And now I've cut out so much of the music because every time I listen to one, I'm like, oh man, this has this
Yeah.
negative message. I cut this out.
You could sing. You could sing a song that you think, oh, this is really catchy. But what are you singing when you're singing that song? You're actually manifesting yourself by singing. Oh, geez, there's so many. Where do you even start? Like, it doesn't matter what song, but be careful on what you're singing. You know, as soon as
Mhm.
you sing those words, whoa, what am I saying here?
Or even what you're listening to, right? Because it doesn't matter if you're only like
You're listening to
singing
it
is
too,
that
yeah.
singing makes like reinforces it definitely. But just
Mm.
even listening to it can program you in a certain way.
Here we go. AC/DC have a song called Highway to Hell.
Yep,
So
exactly.
you could sing the chorus of that song. Where are you on the highway to?
Yeah, I don't want to go on
That just
that
came to my
highway.
head. That just came into my head then.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. I don't want to go on a highway to hell. That's
Neither do
not
I,
where I'm going.
thanks. I'm going on a highway to heaven.
Exactly.
There you
I,
go.
I'm creating heaven on earth right now.
Same here. There we go. Look at that. We're on the highway to heaven, Tanner.
Yep.
Welcome aboard, brother. Let's go.
Love it. Perfect. Okay. I don't know if there's much else to talk about on power words. You got anything else?
Just for anyone out there, start small. It's about progression, not perfection. Don't have to go out there and try and perfect everything. This
Mhm.
is something I had a big lesson in. As soon as I learned all this stuff, I wanted to be perfect in all of it. Just start small. Change. If you can change one thing, give yourself a tick or some self love or a healthy organic treat like a watermelon or something. When I do something cool, I give myself an organic watermelon. I love watermelon, so I just go and buy
Watermelon's
that whenever I've
delicious.
done
Yeah.
something good. Yeah, so yeah, it's like start on the something small that you would like to change, whether it's your self image, your self worth, your self love, your self care. Start small, and then once you change that, you'll find that the next few things along the way will get easier.
Yeah. The
Don't
self care.
go, don't do what I did and go full bullet a gate. That's saying I went bullet a gate and tried to fix everything at once. Just start small.
Mhm.
Maybe that's a message for me. Just to yeah, there are people out there that will want to be the perfectionist. They want to be perfect at everything. Just start small, baby steps, progression, not
Mhm.
perfection.
No, I totally agree
Because
with
I
that.
did the opposite.
Yeah,
So
I completely agree with you because I went towards everything too, and
yep,
for the reason why this can be hard is that your subconscious mind, right? It's always working for whatever is the safest thing. When you start
yep.
changing everything at once, your subconscious
Oh
mind's like,
mate,
whoa, 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 what are we doing
yep,
here? This is our
yeah,
tribe. We like to do these things, and you're doing
yep,
all of these things. We got to go back. So you'll end up encountering some kind of self sabotage where you get like major urges to start drinking or to do whatever, and
yep.
you'll end up going into like a relapse or going
Mm,
back towards the things you didn't want. And if that happens, don't beat yourself up again, right? Just keep moving forward and keep working on
Yep.
it.
And it starts with what you say to yourself.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
If you want to change that habit or that addiction or that thought, start saying that you're going to change it. Not I'm trying to change it. I am changing it.
Yeah.
Because if you're
Exactly.
saying, like you said in your podcast, if you're saying you're trying to, you'll never bloody get there.
Mm-hmm.
I am changing it. Whatever it is.
Exactly. Do or do not. There is no try.
Exactly. Exactly. We could leave that right there.
Awesome. Yep. Well, we'll have to go and do another podcast again because we've got more to talk about. But
Yeah, we
um,
do.
it's been a great podcast, Nathan. Thank you so much for
Yes.
coming
It was
on. It's
awesome.
always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
I'll have to get
All
you
right.
back on mine and we'll talk some more stuff too. And
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
have an awesome couple of days coming up, Tanner. I'm looking forward to working with you on our little project. I'm looking forward to announcing soon.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, keep an eye out for it, guys. We got a um, big project we're coming up with that's going to be very awesome. And
Yep.
also, if you guys did miss Nathan's interview where he talked about his self-sabotage story, I'll make sure I link that down below because that was a
Yep.
great talk, and he shared a lot of great information in there.
Yep.
So I'll make sure I link that.
Put the
And
link to the one you did with me too, man.
oh yeah,
That
yeah,
was a
I'll
good
have
chat
to get
too.
you some. Yeah, we'll have
I'll
to
send
put
that to
that in
you.
there as well. So we'll get that.
Yep.
And then thank you guys all for listening. Please subscribe, please like, please comment. Let us know what you guys thought. Add anything, add any requests that you guys want us to talk about in the future because we love to hear what you guys have to think or what you guys are needing help with.
Yep.
And
Reach out.
anything like any comment, any like, any subscribe really does help boost the
Yep.
algorithm so more people can get this information.
Yep.
And just as it helps us as well because then we can, you know,
Yep.
help more people and we can just do more. So thank you guys
Yep.
all and have a great
Reach
day.
out.
Yep.
Reach out.
Yep. Reach out for help. All right. Thank you.